Good morning, friends, and welcome back. Before I turn this cylinder, which was just a glass vase, into this, I'll let you know about another little secret that is what I'm showing you here. And I'll put a link below to my page on Zazzle where you can get these tissue papers. Now, I've designed these specifically in these sizes so that they can go around vases, they can go on glass bottles. Today I'm doing a sheer decoupage to show you how these papers look over clear glass with a candle or a votive inside. But I also wanted to show you some of the other papers that are for sale. Now, these are just my tissue papers. I make them specifically for decoupage or mixed media. And this one, it's actually mostly watercolors that I do. And this says Waiting for Mr. Darcy. And this size, I give you 4 pieces. 2 of them say Waiting for Mr. Darcy. And then the other 2 are just plain roses. And these are also a very good size for jars, for boxes. During the course of the year, I'll be showing you some extra projects where we can use these, because then it opens up a whole new world when you're using tissue paper. This is another one. This is basically just a background paper for mixed media, or I've done transfers over these. These are also used for gift wrap. But I'm just showing you a few of mine, what I've made for Zazzle. This is a bottle size watercolor rose. This is a sunset in the winter through the trees. Beautiful orchids, watercolor. These, and then a smaller size. With all of that said, here's how we're going to do today's sheer decoupage. So I haven't forgotten about the contest. I'll mention a little more of that while I am decoupaging. I recommend for the tissue papers, because you can get a much nicer cut, that you use one of these disc cutter. And this same image is on here twice. This is an image of a street in a town near here called New Hope, Pennsylvania, which is this beautiful little town, very artsy, that borders the Delaware River. And I go to that little town a lot with my husband, and we get our coffee and hang out. One thing I want to mention, when you go through Zazzle to get these papers, as of today, and this is July of 2019, they don't have a way to prevent this, but when you order the papers, you can only order 2 at a time, 2 whole sheets. But because my papers don't fill out the whole sheet of paper, because they send you this large sheet, and I'm trying to size it to fit over jars and bottles, and if I were to do the whole sheet, you lose a lot of the pictures, so I had to work on the sizing. So what happens is they send you an email saying, do you still want this paper, because it doesn't cover the whole sheet. So you place your order, then they say, do you want the paper? You just say yes, and it goes through. And the papers normally run, I think, like $2 to $3 for 2 pieces, well, for 1 piece, and then the minimum you can order is 2. But I always put at least 2 images on my papers, and sometimes a lot more. Averages 2 to 4 images on 1 piece of paper, so you get quite a lot. So I only want to use this piece, and because we're using tissue paper, which is another very fine paper, I'm going to be using the Deco Art Napkin Decoupage Glue. And I am just going to place a couple of things next to this so that it doesn't roll around while I'm working. Now I'm applying the decoupage glue, and I'm going to work in sections at a time. So I will place the center piece down first. But first, I put a piece of plastic wrap or saran wrap over my tissue paper. Now I want to line it up. And I'm using this saran wrap so that I can press it down. And not tear the paper, which is delicate right now. There's also a few wrinkles in here, and this allows me to press those wrinkles out without damaging the paper. And you want to be careful not to touch the paper with your fingers now while it's wet. So I'm going to add some more decoupage glue to the sections where I don't have it. And while I'm applying this, I will talk to you a little bit about the contest. The contest will be taking place, I'm going to launch it in the beginning of August of this year, and I will put all the rules up. Really, the rules are more for me. It's just to guarantee that, I'm not asking you for any money. I'm just doing a giveaway. There are laws in each state and township regarding contests and giveaways. So before I just jump into this, I want to make sure I have all of the rules correct. See, again, I'm using the saran wrap. Then there's a large wrinkle right there, and you have to be careful because the saran wrap starts to get a lot of decoupage glue on it, so it's okay to bunch it up and carefully. I'm not pressing very hard. I'm kind of just enough to get the wrinkles out. And I'll continue over here, and you may need a new sheet of saran wrap because this one has some decoupage glue on it, and I don't want to tear this paper. Whoopsie. So I'm going to let this part of the process dry, and I'm going to put this in my oven. The oven is cold. I will set the oven to 170 degrees, and I will place this in there. When the oven reaches 170 degrees, I'm going to turn it off and let this dry in there. That also helps to smooth out some of the wrinkles. And before I put this into the oven, I'm going to put another coat of decoupage glue on here. And when I'm going along these edges, it's okay to get some of the decoupage glue onto the glass, but in order to keep that glass part nice and sheer, I'm just going to rub that little bit away. Just be careful that you don't tear the edge of your paper. And I'll come back as soon as this is dry. Okay guys, so do you see that little flickering across the room there? That is an LED candle, but it's the newer type. I'll put links down below for this because about 6 of them come in a pack, and they are so much cheaper than that really expensive brand. I don't even want to say their name. It starts with an L. This is so much, I should say less expensive. I don't like to say cheap. And I'll put the link down below where you can get about 6 of these. Here's how the vase looks with the candle inside. So here I am in the darkest room. It's about 100 degrees outside today. So anyway, that is how our candle looks. That is one of my original tissue papers. By the way, you do have permission to use my papers in your sellable art. You just don't have permission to mass produce. In other words, you can't copy this and sell it as your own. But that said, you are allowed to use this in your artwork, to sell these in your artwork. All of my papers are made for just that reason. I know what it's like to want to be able to use papers and go to shows or sell them on Etsy or online venues and not know whether or not you're allowed to. Is it okay? Is it copyrighted? Don't forget about Zazzle. I'm going to turn the light on so you can also see how this looks in the light. Doesn't that candle in there look real? It looks real outside or inside the vase. I'll put a little more light on so you can see how this looks when it's just sitting there during the day. And please let me know if there's some papers that you would like to see some more images of, particularly in watercolors. I also will put the links down below for all of the products that I've used. I will put the link down for my Zazzle store, but while you're over there, you can look around and find thousands of other pieces of wrapping paper. You name the occasion, they've got it. And they've got all kinds of t-shirts, pillows. You'll see when you get over there. But for me, I'm more interested in making decoupage papers. And please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for subscribing and for sharing my videos. And there is the vase, just as it looks. I'll turn the candle off. And that is how the vase looks. And Upcycle with Decoupage is on Facebook. If you go over and like and follow the page, you'll be notified every week when I put a new video out. It's going to be very important that you're on Facebook for the contest purposes. Then I'm going to ask you to private message me on Facebook with your address. And I also want to put your name out there because people will want to know who won the napkins. By the way, I'm only going to say your first name and the state where you're from. Okay, so don't worry that I'm going to put any of your other information out there. So guys, that is our video for today. Thanks again for tuning in. I will see you next week. Hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Hope you guys are keeping cool. Thanks again. Bye-bye.